to my channel. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm in a different area. It's also raining outside, it's windy, it's only 11:30 in the morning. It is absolutely like dark and miserable. It feels like the winter has come again and we've lost spring. I'm going to do something I've been wanting to do, but I've been trying to figure out how to film it, and hopefully the quality is okay. Actually, I've already filmed this, but I didn't enjoy the quality. So I've also got my glasses on because I need to see, because I'm in front of the computer. We're going to do an eyeshadow battle. I've got the Bracket Fights website up, which is the same as when you go to like your tier ranking and everything. They have their own bracket fights, and I've seen people do this when it comes to like books and everything. I've never seen anyone do it with eyeshadow on this website. I have seen them do it just manually, but I think I'm doing it on the website because they're going to fill the brackets for me. I don't have enough eyeshadow palettes. I have enough, but I don't have enough eyeshadow. Oh my gosh, if you could hear the rain, it's like a complete storm. I don't have enough eyeshadow palettes to fill every single bracket, but you'll see what I've done. There's one lonely eyeshadow that's probably going to pass through a few rounds. And yeah, it has been random, so I haven't manually inputted which eyeshadow to battle which one. So we'll see how this goes. And yeah, let's get started. All right, so it starts off with this one. We have the Delicious Delights from the Cosmic Brushes, which is a brand new palette for me, and we have the new neutrals from Gloss Gods. Now, straight up, this is really hard for me to decide because I really love the new neutrals. I actually gave it to my mother last year, and I just bought it again for myself because I missed it. So obviously, I love that palette, but the Delicious Delights is such a beautiful palette, and honestly, it doesn't deserve to be out at the first round. Oh my god, this one is so hard. Like, which one do I actually prefer? I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to go with Gloss Gods, but I feel really sick to my stomach that I'm gonna say goodbye to Delicious Delights because, as I said, I've filmed this before, and that one did actually make it really far, but because it's against the new neutrals, I think it's more wearable for me, and there were a couple of dud shades in the Delicious Delights. I love the color story. I think it's like the shades are a lot of fun, but there are two shimmers that did disappoint me. So I'm gonna go with the new neutrals. Oh, that's really, really sad. Like that makes me sad. Okay, all right. So we have Sample Beauty Equalizer 2, which is a beautiful palette. It's the only Sample Beauty palette that I have. And then we have the Avocado Toast from BH Cosmetics. I think I'm going to go with the Sample Beauty because I think I don't know what it is about it, but I really love the formula. It reminds me of Beauty Bay, but not so much. Like the shimmers are not like Beauty Bay, but I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Sample Beauty. I do like Avocado Toast, but it's not my favorite BH Cosmetics. Okay, we've got the Monsoon. This is hard for me because I have to like remember what all these palettes are as well. They're everything in my collection, but I have to remember. Okay, so we have the Monsoon from What's Up Beauty. And this one I just wore the other day. It's the What's Your Power from Gloss Gods. I'm going to go with the What's Your Power because I have barely used the Monsoon. It's one of my newest palettes. And yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Gloss Gods at this point. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have Huda Beauty Naughty Nude, which has never been one that I've loved. It took me a really long time to appreciate this palette. At first, I really thought that all the shades were, I don't know, I just thought there were too many of the same. But after doing a 1 week 1 palette with it last year, I definitely, or was it 2 years ago now? I appreciated it more. And then also I did a project level up with that one. I think it was my level 2. So I have spent a lot of time with that palette. However, I do think Look for Rainbows is my favorite, if not one of my favorite palettes in my collection. So I'm going to have to go with Look for Rainbows, which is from Gloss Gods. Okay, so we have Beauty Bay, the Big Earthly palette, which is beautiful. And then we have the Alva from Odin's Eye. I'm going to have to go with Beauty Bay. The formula is so much better. I just way prefer Beauty Bay over Odin's Eye. So that was a no-brainer. At least that one was easy. Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde or the Jackie Aina from ABH, which are two of my favorite palettes in my collection. I do think that the ABH one, I'm starting to feel like it's a little dark. I don't know, there's just something, I've always loved that palette, but maybe I don't love it as much as I think, because I pulled it for a Shop My Stash a couple months ago and I barely used it. So I'm going to go with the Huda Beauty because I've been enjoying that. It's in my Shop My Stash right now. And I do think I like it more. I think maybe it's just the lighter tones for spring, even though it's not spring right now. It just, maybe that's a little bit better for me. Okay, so then we have Blueberry Muffin and we have the Hocus Pocus 2 from Colourpop. So quite different palettes to compete against each other. I do think Beach Cosmetic formula was nicer, but I don't know about this one. I do not know about this one. I think I'm gonna go for the Hocus Pocus 2 for some reason. I just find the color story a little bit more fun, and yeah, I think the Blueberry Muffin is beautiful, but you know, you can really only go on it when you want cool tones, and the other one I feel like has a little bit more. So, all right, so we have Gloss Gods again. I do have a lot of Gloss Gods palettes, so they'll probably pop up quite a bit. This one is the Gal on Jupiter. It's one of my newer Gloss Gods. And then we have the Alter Ego Shadow Kiss. Now, two very neutral, cool tone palettes up against each other. Both have shimmers and mattes. I will say Gloss Gods formula is nicer than Alter Ego, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with the Gloss Gods. Okay, then we have the Colourpop Aurora Struck and another gloss. Oh my god, I'm just going to repeat myself with all the Gloss Gods. And then the Vintage Glam from Gloss Gods. I'm going to have to go with the Vintage Glam because I've had issues with the Aurora Struck color story. I find it really dark and there have been some shimmers that have been lackluster. However, this shade right here, So Lit, I did hit pan in it a few months ago and it's beautiful. It's definitely gorgeous. So it has given me hope that this palette is not terrible. It was on my chopping block, but there's just so many shades that I don't know if I am willing to say goodbye to it yet. But I do think the Vintage Glam is stunning. It's so romantic. It's the type of palette that you can wear on your wedding day. So yeah, I'm going to go with Vintage Glam. Okay, then we have the Norvina and we have the, this is like the Batman palette. Dangerous in Love, I think, is what it's called, from Revolution. It has to be Norvina from ABH. That's a no-brainer. It's one of my favorite palettes. Okay, then we have P. Louise. This is the, I can't remember the name of it, but this is like Step Into or Say Goodbye to 2022, something like that. And then the Dancing in the Sky from, again, Gloss Gods. I'm repeating myself. But this one, like the other Gloss Gods, the Look for Rainbows, they're probably two of my favorite palettes in my collection, so I'm going to have to go with Dancing in the Sky. It's just such a fun palette. All right, and then we have Alter Ego Artemis, which I have in my project level up at the moment, so I'm really putting in a lot of effort in that one. And we have the Pharaoh from Menagerie. I think if you talk about formula-wise, the Menagerie Cosmetics formula is superior to Alter Ego. I also think there are too many shades in the Artemis that are too similar to each other. So I just don't think that you needed a bunch of these oranges that are very similar, and some of the greens are even similar, and these darker blue greens, and then these two blues in the middle. So there's quite a lot of redundancy in that one. And because the formula is better in Menagerie, I do like the Pharaoh palette. It's not my favorite Menagerie palette. I only have two, but I think I'm going to go with the Pharaoh, to be fair, because I think those shimmers are just way more special than Alter Ego. Okay, so we have a discontinued palette here and a brand that no longer exists. So this is the Yasmin palette from My Other Beauty, and then we have the Technic Days from Beauty Bay. This one was also limited edition, so you can no longer buy this. So between the two, I think that I'll go with the Yasmin. There's a lot more, you know, there's more options in that palette. There's more shades. I do really like the Technic Days. I think the formula is beautiful. It's beauty based. It's your typical Beauty Bay beautiful formula. But I think that I'm going to have to go with the Yasmin palette because, again, I think that formula is really beautiful as well. Okay, so if you just see on the left here, I do have one lonely little palette on its own because I don't have one to match it with. So it's just gone through. So like I said at the beginning, there will be one palette, and that was the one palette, which I think is the Kaleidos Club Nebula palette. So I think that's fair because I like that palette. So I think it can go to the next round. Okay, so before we move on to the right side, it's just going to go through all of the left side. So we're going to go back up to the top here. Okay, so we have Glossgo's New Neutral versus the Sample Beauty Equalizer 2. This one, I think that, I think I'm going to go with the Sample Beauty one because there's more variety. I think it's a little bit more fun. And then between these two, they're both Gloss Gods. I'm going to go for Look for Rainbow because it is an all shimmer palette. However, I think the mattes in the What's Your Power are a little bit weaker. They're a little bit less impactful. They're a little bit more of your pastel shades, and they're okay. I don't think they're the best. So comparing to these two is a little bit hard, but because the shimmers in What's Your Power is beautiful too, but I think the shimmers in Look for Rainbows is spectacular and a little bit out of this world. So I'm going to go with the Look for Rainbows because I like it more. Okay, and then we have the Earthly and Mercury Retrograde. So very different color stories. Obviously, you've got a really pink, purple, romantic color story. And then you have this earthy, you know, reddish, green, neutral palette. I mean, they both have neutrals, but I think they're also very wearable too. Formula-wise, they're different, but I like both formulas. This one's tricky. Because if I had to choose to go in between the two of them, there are some shades in the Earthly that are just absolutely stunning. I don't know if I like every single shade in the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde. I love Gold Glitch, and that is my favorite shade for sure. There's a few other beautiful ones, but I had a really great time with the Earthly last year when I did a No Pan Left Behind on it. This is a struggle because it kind of depends on what type of look I want to make for myself. I think I'm gonna go with the Earthly because I think I would probably wear it more than Huda Beauty at this point. Okay, between these two, you have a cool tone. This is the Gloss Goes Gal on Jupiter and then the Hocus Pocus 2. I prefer the Gal on Jupiter formula, but there is something about these silvers in here. They're just a little bit too in your face. And I think the Hocus Pocus 2 is a little bit more wearable. So I'm going to go with Hocus Pocus 2 for now. I think any other day I probably would have picked the other one. But I don't know. I'm just in the mood to maybe go against the grain a little bit. Okay, so we have two really stunning, beautiful color stories here. Actually quite similar to each other. Two romantic purple-pink color stories that you could easily wear on special occasions, your wedding day or date nights and things. I will say the Norvina, the formula is very powdery. It's getting old, but even when it wasn't old, it was always like that. And the Vintage Glam doesn't have that, and it does have some beautiful special shades. And I think that the shimmers in the Vintage Glam are nicer than the shimmers in the Norvina. I think Norvina is just a little bit more nostalgic to me. So I think I'm going to go with the Vintage Glam from Gloss Gods and yeah, step outside the box a little bit more. Okay, and then we have the Dancing in the Sky versus the Feral. I had to go Dancing in the Sky because, like I said, the Feral is not my favorite Menagerie palette. So I'm going to have to go with Dancing in the Sky. I think that one's probably just going to win it all. And then we have the Yasmin palette versus, yeah, the Club Nebula palette from Kaleidos. This one's going to be tricky, honestly, because they're both quite colorful. I do like the formula of both of them. The mattes perform great on both of them too, and the shimmers are stunning in both of them. So actually this one's really hard. I find it hard to hit pan on the Yasmin in terms of the mattes. I think it's going to be impossible. I do find hitting pan in Club Nebula is a little bit easier, but that really shouldn't sway my decision. There are some dark shades in the Club Nebula, which I'm just not a fan of. And I have had more enjoyment from the Yasmin palette. But the shimmers in Club Nebula are really stunning. But they are, this one's actually hard. This one I think is hard because I think they're very on par with each other. There's not one that I like over the other. There's probably more variety in the Yasmin. I'm going to go with the Yasmin because you can go a little bit more grungier, which I think I like. So, okay, back to the top. We have Sample Beauty versus Look for Rainbow. It's going to have to be the Look for Rainbow. Okay, and then between these two, it's going to be, I think it's going to have to be the Earthly because I do prefer the formula over Colourpop. And then between these two, I really do like the Vintage Glam, but Dancing in the Sky, hands down, a gorgeous palette. Okay, oh my gosh, all right, this is getting harder. Okay, this one, definitely go for Look for Rainbows. Oh, I know it's gonna happen. It's gonna be like two of my favorites up against each other, and I don't know how I'm gonna pick. Between these two, I'm gonna go with Dancing in the Sky. So now these two always match up against each other, and I always flip-flop between the two, and we haven't even done the right side of the bracket. Yeah, I think last year I did a ranking and Look for Rainbows was at the top, but then I was thinking, no, it should be Dancing in the Sky. Right now, I kind of feel like, because see, Look for Rainbows has more variety because it's not just green. However, Dancing in the Sky has purple to it, it has yellow to it, it has some blue flips. They're both full shimmer palettes. If I had to wear one of these today, right now, I think I would go with Dancing in the Sky, but I think that might be a mistake. But I'm gonna go with Dancing in the Sky. All right, finally, let's go to the next side because this is just getting too much. Okay, we have the Geodes palette from What's Up Beauty and the Canyon palette from Alter Ego. I like this Canyon palette, and I spent a lot of time on it because it was in my project level up, and it was like level 5, so I had to get, was it 4 or 5? I don't know. I think it was 5, and I got a lot of pans in it for that reason and a lot of use out of it. So I do know it very well. It's a very, very mid-tone, warm tone palette. There's not that much depth that you can add other than the cream shade at the top here, and there's hardly any lighter shades. So there are negatives to that palette, and there is some redundancy. I do think some shades are a little bit too similar to each other. Now the Geodes palette, I've barely touched because it is a newer palette for me, and I just haven't spent that time that I have with it like the Canyon, so there's a little bit more variety I feel like with the Geodes, but if I'm gonna be honest, I think I'm gonna have to go with the Canyon because I really like it, and I can't say that I like the other one over it. I just can't at this point. Maybe that will change once I spend more time on the Geodes. Okay, so we have the Nagatoa. This is from Glam Shop, and we have this is the wrong one. I actually have the 6-pan one. I don't know why I have the 12-pan in here. I'm gonna say right now I like the Nagatoa more because I just think these are more wearable, and there's some special shimmers in here. So I'm gonna go with that one. And then we have the Juvia's Place Bronze Rustic, and we have the Killer Purr. Now, I'm gonna go with the Killer Purr because I think the formula is nicer in terms of the shimmer quality. I think matte-wise, they're both quite nice. I really do like the Bronze Rustic, and I've spent quite a bit of time. I have 2 pans in it now, but I'm gonna go with the Killer Purr because I think for Menagerie, it's just really beautiful. Okay, and then we have the Stoned Vibes palette from Urban Decay, which is my pan palette for this year, so spending a lot of time on that one. And then we have the NARS Rising Star palette. Have to take it to the Urban Decay. It has to be. I just enjoy it a lot more. Okay, and then we have the MAC Star Sighting palette in the shade Fuchsia. This was a holiday edition like 4 years ago probably now. And then we have the Odin's Eye. Which one is this one? This is the Verdandi. So I like this formula from Odin's Eye out of all of the ones, but it has to go to the MAC because I just prefer that palette more. Okay, and then we have Corda Rosa palette from Sigma, and we have the Glam Shop palette. This is the, what's this one called? I can't remember what this one is called. This is the one. Is this the one? Yeah, I think this is the one where I pulled it from my stash a couple months ago, and it was kind of hard to do a look because a lot of these lower, like these bottom shades down here, flipped very yellow, and they didn't really seem that way in the pan, and I did find it was more of a companion palette. However, I've never had that much fun with the Sigma Corda Rosa. I've always had some issues with the shimmer quality and the formula. Even though the color story is gorgeous, I've just never like fallen in love with that palette, and it was so disappointing when I tried it. So I'm gonna go with the Glam Shop. Can't remember the name. Okay, and then we have the Serenity palette from Cosmic Brushes against the Nuvo palette from ABH. The Serenity palette from Cosmic Brushes is really fun. Like, you can do some really beautiful grungy looks and the quality is stunning. Nuvo is beautiful too. It's a little more understated and muted, and that's why I really liked it and that's why I picked it up, and I have had some fun with it. This one's hard because I'm not sure what formula I prefer. I didn't find any issues with the Serenity palette, if I'm going to be honest with you. It's just in terms of a color story, it is quite dark and there are a lot of blue shades, and I don't wear blue all the time, but there was a lot of fun to that palette. And the Nuvo palette could potentially be a little bit boring. And there are some shades that are not my favorite, like this last shade down at the bottom here. I really don't like it. It's a really dark brown shimmer, but it's not a nice formula. I think for fun, I'm gonna go with the Serenity. I think so. Okay, and then we have She Glam Virtuous Virgo against the BH Cosmetic Chilling in Chicago. I'm definitely gonna go with the Chilling in Chicago because the formula is way superior than the Virtuous Virgo. So that one is a no-brainer. Okay, and then we have the Muse palette from Cosmic Brushes against the Dragon's Eye from What's Up Beauty. I'm going to go with the Dragon's Eye because this Muse palette was a palette that I was eyeing up for some time. It was always out of stock. I finally got my hands on it and I tried it this last month. And I was slightly disappointed in some of the shades or like the looks that I got from it. I've actually, just looking at it now, it looks very dark. I just found it really dark, and I think I'm just not at the point where I want to wear really dark eyeshadow. And the Dragon's Eye, beautiful formula, really fun. I still haven't spent a huge amount of time with it. I do feel like I know the Muse more than the Dragon's Eye, but I'm going to go with the Dragon's Eye because I think it's more fun and there's more variety somehow. Okay, so then we've got Essence. This is one of their Lion King ones. I don't remember what the name of this palette is. And then we have NARS, the Afterglow palette. Gotta give it to NARS Afterglow. It is an oldie but a goodie for me. It never lets me down. This shade right here is my favorite shade in the palette. It is so stunning, and yeah, it's just I don't use it enough, but I do love this palette. Okay, and then we have another Glam Shop. This is the Muesli Noah against the Nabla Dreamy palette. So this one's a little bit prettier than the other Glam Shop, but I think it has sort of the same sort of shades. It's just toned down a little bit more. It's not as vibrant, so I think it's more wearable. The Dreamy is beautiful. I do think the formula of Nabla is better. However, there are two shades in this Dreamy palette that I'm not a huge fan of, which are these two purples. And maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of difficult, this one, because the formula is very different. The Nabla formula, like the shimmer formula, is completely different to the Glam Shop ones. Glam Shop's a little bit more special, but I think I know the Dreamy palette a little bit more, and I think at the end of the day, I would pick that over the other one. Okay, then we have BH Cosmetic, Summer in Saint-Tropez versus Natasha Denona, the Retro. I'm going to go with BH Cosmetics Summer in Saint-Tropez. I just think this is a beautiful, stunning palette. It has a lot of variety. I'm not a huge fan of this, these four shades down at the bottom, but that's absolutely fine. I don't know. I'm not somebody who fell in love with Natasha Denona eyeshadow formula. I have this palette. I spend a lot of money on it, and I've not really wanted to buy any of her other palettes. I just think it's fine. But I do like the variety of this because this is very one note. So yeah, I'm gonna go with BH Cosmetics. And then we've got two Odin's Eye. So we've got the Odin's Eye, the Jewels and Gem. I think, yeah, this is the Jewels and Gem. And then we have the Mini Ocean 2, like the Alba Mini Ocean 2 palette. I'm going to go, this is really hard because actually both of these formulas are pretty disappointing. I found the shimmer formula in the Jewels and Gem quite stiff. Nothing wrong with the mattes, but between the two, I'm going to go, what would if I had to wear it today, like what would I actually like dip my hands into? I would you know what? I think I'm going to go with the Mini Ocean because I think this one, even though it has all these shades, I just never had a fun time using it. I've spent a little bit more time with Mini Alba too. I think the formula of both of these are kind of like meh. So it's really hard, but I don't know. I'm going to go with the Mini Ocean too. That was a surprise. I didn't think that was going to happen. Okay, so we're back at the top. Okay, so we have the Nugatoa against the Canyon. This is hard because the things that I said were negative in the Canyon, the Nugatoa sort of doesn't have, right? We have lighter shades and we have darker shades. There's a little bit more variety in terms of tone. However, it really only has 3 shimmers and then 2 or 3 satins, which I'm not a huge fan of the satins. And then the Canyon is just kind of a one, I'm going to go with the Canyon. I have to. Okay, then we have Colourpop against the Stone Vibes from Urban Decay. 2 very different palettes, very different formulas. Oh gosh, this one's tricky. This is tricky because it's just tricky. Like, how can I decide between these two? You know, the Urban Decay, Stone Vibes is old. It's getting old and I'm trying to get through it. Colourpop is still beautiful and stunning. They're so different from each other. Like, how do I pick between these two? How do I pick? I'm trying to think, like, which one do I actually like more? I think I'm going to go with Stone Vibes. I have to. I'm wearing it today. I have to. Okay, so then we've got this Glam Shop, which I can't remember the name, and then we have the MAC. Between these two, I'm going to have to go with the Glam Shop because even though I said it's more of a companion palette, the shades are still stunning and beautiful. So I think it's the formula-wise, it's just better than MAC. Okay, and then we have the Serenity versus BH Cosmetics. I'm going to go with BH because it's a color story that I can vibe with a little bit more. And then we have Dragon's Eye versus Afterglow. Ooh. I'm going to go, actually, what am I going to go with? So they both have kind of pinks and purples, but the Dragon's Eye has the green. I would never put these two together too. I don't know what I'm going to do with this one. Also, a very old palette, which I know very well, against one that I don't know that well because it is a newer palette for me. So why is it so tricky? I mean, given that, I should probably go with the Dragon's Eye because of that. I'm going to go with Dragon's Eye, I think, because it has more variety, right? Ooh, okay, these two. I'm going to go with the BH Cosmetics. More variety, more fun. I do prefer the formula actually over Nabla, even though I do like this palette. I think it has to be Summer and Century. I think it's just a understated palette. Okay, so we're back at the top. Okay, so we're getting there. We're almost there. All right, so we have the Canyon versus Stone Vibes. I'm going to go with Stone Vibes. And then we go to the Glam Shop versus Chilling in Chicago. I'm going to go with Chilling in Chicago. Didn't I just do this? I feel like, no, I didn't just do this. It's just another hard one. Okay, then we have BH Cosmetics Summer and Century versus Dragon's Eye. It's going to be the Summer and Century. I just prefer it. Yeah. Okay, then we have Stone Vibes versus the Chilling in Chicago. Stone Vibes. That one seems a little bit easier. Then we have BH versus, definitely BH. That one shouldn't even make it. Okay. We're getting down to it. Okay, then we have the Stone Vibes versus Summer and Century. Oh, gosh. I do like the Summer and Century. I kind of just like, I like the variety in that palette. I do really like that palette. I do really like Stone Vibes too. Maybe I'm getting a little sick of the Stone Vibes because it is my Pamnat palette for this year. So I'm like, maybe my love for it is like waning a little bit because I'm getting to know it a little bit more. I'm going to go with Summer and Century because of the variety factor. Is this the final? Oh my gosh, this is the final. Okay, so we have Dancing in the Sky Gloss Gods, which is an all shimmer palette. And then we have Summer and Century BH Cosmetic, which obviously has more variety in terms of colors and tones, and also has matte shades. I think I'm going to have to go with Dancing in the Sky. I'm just going to have to. Oh my gosh, that's it. We won. Okay. Wow, that's so much fun. Okay, so that's it. So I need to like get more eyeshadow so I can fill this up. But anyway, there we go. There we have it. That is the end. Oh my goodness. I want to say every time I have done this, because I have like done some test runs and they've always been different, Dancing in the Sky has always made it to the final. So I'm gonna have to say that is my favorite palette in the collection. It's just, that's the way it is. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to. And yeah, I'd love to see other people do this. So if you have seen anyone do it, let me know. But otherwise, thank you. Bye.